Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. Invincible dropped their Season 4, Episode 7 trailer. There's a whole bunch of new footage, Easter eggs, WTF moments, so we will break it all down, because it looks like Thragg is even more pissed than he was before. There's so many memes about Thragg's haircut, but he really is so powerful that his haircut alone could probably kill most of the characters on the show. The title of the episode is Don't Do Anything Rash, and it's a reference to what Cecil said to Mark at his house at the end of issue number 87 in the comics while he was being hunted by the government, but it also might be something that another character says to another character in this actual episode. There have been a couple episode titles that they've used from dialogue from previous comics or comics that aren't attached to direct scenes that actually happen in the episodes of this season. They kind of do the same thing on The Boys TV show where they'll use the title of episodes, but they'll reference things from previous, like long before in the actual comics that don't really tie to what's actually happening in the episodes. They make it seem like this is the actual opening scene of the episode, but it could be happening later in the episode because we are supposed to get a big Thragg flashback for like the first 10-15 minutes of the actual episode. Because this scene here seems like Thragg right after the events of last week's episode coming back to the throne room on Viltrum after the Viltrumites bailed on Telescria because they weren't going to be able to stop all the other Viltrumites that just showed up, like Mark, Oliver, Omni-Man, Thaedus. Their additional coalition team, like Battle Beast, was finally there with them fighting. Kind of bummed that we didn't see more Battle Beast fighting in last week's episode, but we'll see plenty of Battle Beast in the upcoming couple of episodes. But I love the way they played this scene where they framed the throne with him slowly walking towards it, then sitting on it like heavy is the head that wears the crown, so to speak, even though he isn't wearing a crown. He is just the Grand Regent of the Viltrumite people, not the actual Emperor of the Viltrumite people. This entire episode is meant to explain how that works, why he is the regent, why he took over from Argyll after Thaedus killed him before the Great Purge, and long before the Scourge virus.
Even in death, Argyll showed us the way. We cut the weak from our ranks.
We got a lot more footage from this episode and the next episode, the actual finale, in the previous Thragg trailer. There's another shot of him flying through space with his cape on, not sure where he's going here or where he's coming from in this particular scene. This might be connected to the actual intro title that keeps breaking away, but there could also be something else, like another big WTF moment that they might end the season on that involves a lot of breaking of things. We get another scene of Thragg on Viltrum with a bunch of other Viltrumite people assembled, and it seems like he kills another one. There's a couple other people here in red too next to him, and there's a casket. This might be part of the flashbacks to Argyll's death. It might just be Argyll's body inside that casket. Not totally sure why he killed the Viltrumite next to him. Maybe that Viltrumite had something to do with not being able to protect Argyll, and that's why he's pissed at them, or they just said something out of turn, and that's how vicious he is. Because remember, at this point, the Scourge virus hasn't come, so there's still billions of Viltrumites, so killing one of them isn't that big of a deal. This is also one of the reasons why he didn't kill Conquest when Conquest requested that he kill him for punishment. Conquest is still one of the most powerful Viltrumites, and Thragg didn't want to give that up because there's so few of them. We get another scene of him punching someone in space. He doesn't have his cape on. This is probably from their final boss fight over Viltrum when the coalition team comes to planet Viltrum. We will finally get to see Thragg actually throw down in a way that we didn't get to see in the previous episode. We get a real quick montage of him spanking a whole bunch of people, but we don't actually see who he is destroying during this. He's just flying all over the place in a bunch of different shots, just absolutely slapping people into oblivion. We see him flying in formation with other Viltrumites here in space. Anissa, you see Lucan. Craig's face is still messed up from when Thaedus thrashed him. Remember, Thaedus actually was able to pound him pretty hard. My assumption this is also a scene from the final battle at the end of the episode and towards next week's finale episode. They might just have a battle that crosses over a couple episodes. Like they'll use the beginning of episode 7 for the Thragg flashback to explain his history and how he became Grand Regent, what happened with Argyll, with maybe an Argyll flashback as well too. Maybe this means we'll also see Thaedus kill Argyll. Then partway through the episode they jump back to present day and the coalition team rolls up to planet Viltrum and the battle actually gets started, and then that just crosses over into the actual finale episode. Then there is that very cool impact frame they have of somebody trying to punch him and him looking kind of like the devil. Like the way they animate it with the impact frames, he looks kind of like the actual devil, more than the devil did when Mark actually went to hell.
Yeah, baby!
You can kind of see the hand that's trying to punch his face and doesn't even face him. It looks kind of like Mark's hand that's punching him. There's another scene of him in a courtyard here. I think this is meant to be on planet Viltrum with the blood all over the ground and some of the dead Viltrumites in their white uniforms. This is probably after the Great Purge, right after Argyl's death, after he had become the Grand Regent. The whole idea with Thragg is that he was raised from birth to be the most powerful Viltrumite while Argyl was still alive, but Thragg himself is not biologically related to Argyl. That's why he couldn't become the next emperor succeeding Argyl when he died. Viltrumite society is very rigid, as you've seen in previous episodes. They were like this even before the Scourge virus. So what happened is that thousands of years ago, Thaedus kills Argyl, hoping that it will stop the Viltrumites' evil ways, because they do want to make the galaxy a better place. It's just the way they go about that Argyl had them doing, Thaedus felt like was evil. So Thaedus was hoping that another better leader would step up and lead the Viltrumites to a better path, which, as we saw, did not happen. It's Thragg that came along. Because of the way that Argyl had organized their society, or reorganized their society to become as powerful as possible and as conquering as possible, Thragg is eventually conceived with another totally different couple not connected to Argyl and raised from birth to be the most powerful, but by the time he reaches age of maturity, Thaedus has killed Argyl. Thragg is then the most powerful Viltrumite on the planet that they have, and they don't know where any of Argyl's heirs are. He does have children, grandchildren probably. They're probably going to change a couple things about the way that Argyl's bloodline actually works. But all the Viltrumites have no idea where his heirs are, thinking that some of them died during the Scourge virus. So one of the first missions that Thragg is given when he becomes the Grand Regent is that he needs to find one of Argyl's heirs to become their next emperor and lead them forward in the future. But because the Scourge virus hit, Thragg basically abandoned this and changed their plans to try and rebuild their race using the methods that we see Omni-Man being sent to Earth to look for a place that they could interbreed with, a species that was compatible with them. They found humans, and then you see everything that happens during Season 1 and forward on the show. But the whole idea with the Great Purge here is that Thragg takes the throne as Grand Regent, and they kill half the population that supported Thaedus' line of thought that they should not be conquering the rest of the universe. This is also why in present day, why Thaedus is so imperative about getting rid of Thragg. It's all about, like his speech, his voiceover here, is Thragg is the important one we need to get rid of. Don't worry about the other Viltrumites. We just need to kill Thragg. That'll fix everything.
Autobots, transform and roll out!
On his side of things, Thragg wants to kill Thaedus so badly because he is the betrayer, because Thragg idolized Argyl. It was actually his skull that he was carrying around in last week's episode and talking to like he was still alive. The big gash in the top of the skull is where Thaedus basically chopped his skull. You remember Viltrumites use their hands as weapons because their bodies are stronger than actual metal. This is also why Conquest's prosthetic actually made him weaker. He would have been stronger with his just regular hand fighting Mark instead of that Infinity Gauntlet parody. We will actually see how they pace out the present day of Episode 7, though. Like, once they do the Thragg flashback, we'll probably go back to the Coalition on Telescria as they marshal and they recoup, and then they go to planet Viltrum together. But even though this season is supposed to be the end of this Viltrumite war, it is not the end of the battle with Thragg or the other Viltrumites. Like, it's just the beginning of Viltrumite stuff happening throughout the actual series in what happens to their race going forward after this. There are also still many, many seasons of Invincible that they can do from comics to adapt. Like, there's still a long runway in the actual comics, even though the comics themselves aren't that long. Based on the way that Robert Kirkman has talked about it, they have at least 5 seasons planned out and renewed with Amazon. Beyond that, they'll need to get renewed for additional seasons, but he seems pretty confident that they will get a couple extra seasons beyond that, but it might only go to like season 7 or 8. We will see if it goes beyond that. Based on the stuff that they have in the comics left to adapt and how much stuff they add that wasn't in the original comics, they could go to like 9 or 10 seasons if they really wanted to, if they stretched a little bit in the final couple seasons, but we will see what winds up happening. There's been a lot of talk about them cheaping out on the budget, what happens with the animators, why they don't spend more money on animators actually working on episodes, where does the budget go? People wondering if all the big celebrities that they get to voice roles are sucking up the budget. The really weird thing about Invincible is that supposedly the actual budget for animating the show is completely separate from the budget that they get for all the voice actors, like the really big A-list celebrities to voice roles. Meaning that the celebrities aren't sucking up the animation budget, but Amazon does need to give them more money to animate the series. So it is still kind of a budget problem, but not in the way that people originally thought that it was a problem.
You know what? I'm gonna need a check.
Okay, got it.
There are a lot of modern anime that look fantastic that people point to for comparison, like why does this anime look so much better than a lot of Western animation like Invincible's animation? One of the really big reasons for that is unions and working conditions in Western animation versus Eastern anime animation. Most animators working at anime studios, like traditional anime studios, are worked to the bone and get paid way, way less, so they have way more budget to actually throw at the actual episodes. They're also historically very, very talented too, yes, but look, one of the big secrets is just not paying their people that are actually working on episodes, whereas a lot of Western animators have guild protections preventing stuff like that a lot of people working in Japan do not have. But also at the same time, typical Western animators do not get paid that much money, like they're also underpaid as well too. The TLDR on that is that Amazon just needs to give Invincible a bigger budget to hire more animators, so Amazon, please do give them more money for that. But everyone post all your reactions in the comments below, and let me know if you spotted any Easter eggs or references in the footage that I haven't talked about in the video. My full episode 7 video will post next week after they release it, also because we have Daredevil Born Again episodes and The Boys Season 5 episode. All my videos will release in the same basic schedule that I released them last week too, so be sure to enable alerts for my channel so you don't miss any of that stuff. There was also a very big Avatar The Last Airbender movie leak. Yes, there's a new animated Avatar The Last Airbender movie that they're releasing later this year on Paramount+. I can't really do a video about that just because copyright is very, very draconian when it comes to leaked stuff like that, but it is out there, and I will do a video for that stuff for that movie when they do release it officially. Everybody click here for all my Invincible episodes, and click here for all my other big episode videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.